Hello and welcome back. So in the last video, we looked at a website on Wikipedia, the Wikipedia page for Theodoric IV, and I talked about how to access and interact with and look at the HTML code of the website. What we are going to do in this video is use a very powerful, very important library called requests in Python. If you'll notice throughout this video, I'm not going to ever at any point actually go to the Wikipedia page. I'm going to be interacting with it solely in Python. And I can do this because of the library requests. One of the things that we are going to see in this video is probably the most important function of requests, which is a function called get, and how to take what you get from a website, which is going to be all the HTML code, and either render it as content or as text. But one of the things we are going to see in this video is kind of the limits of requests. The limits of requests come down to how the content is rendered. Request is not good at rendering content. It's merely good at obtaining it. And in order to actually render HTML code in a better way, we're going to have to use another module called Beautiful Soup. And we're going to get to that in the next video. So in this video, I am strictly concerned with showing you how to use the requests library and the get function to actually go to a specific URL or website and extract the data from that website. And then, should you wish, store that data in a file. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to import requests. This is going to, in case you aren't familiar yet, this is going to import the library or the module so that we can actually call the specific functions. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to create two objects. Creating this object, the file one, is not entirely necessary, but we're going to be using it later in this video, so just ignore that for right now. But the main object that you want to create is this URL object. This is the Pythonic way of storing a website for requests to handle. So the way in which we're going to do this is we're going to create another object, and typically you'll oftentimes see this rendered as S in a lot of code. And what S is going to be equal to is requests.get URL. Okay, that's all. Now, if you were to try to print off this, you'll notice that you're just getting this response 200. That's because you haven't really told requests what to actually do with the data that's coming from the URL. And what we want to do, what we are very interested in doing, is kind of just getting all of that HTML code right now. And there's really two different ways to do this. We can do this with content, and then we can print off that content. And if you look down here, you're going to see it in the output rendered an atom all the way across like this. Not very pretty. Or we can render it as text. And the reason why I'm showing you both of these is because we're going to see an error here. Because Atom is going to have a hard time reading it. And if you look down here, it's going to return a Unicode encode error. Chances are, depending on what IDE you're using, especially if you're using the Windows terminal, you're going to encounter this error. A great way to get around this is to use the encode function built into requests. And what you're going to do is you're going to tell it to read the data as UTF-8. This is the encoding that that the information is actually in. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new object with the setup. This is going to be simply called data. And what we are going to do is we're going to now print off data, and we should see it rendered down here in kind of a similar way. And what we've done is we've simply told Atom to just simply encode everything in UTF-8 so that we don't have that Unicode error. This is kind of a sloppy workaround, but it works quite well. But one of the things that you should notice is that this is not coming out nicely at all. And the reason for that is because requests is not a library that makes the HTML code look nice or rendered neatly in the output. Instead, it's really meant for just kind of going and grabbing the data. What you need to use in order to actually make it look better is a thing called beautiful soup. But before we get to that, we're going to just simply try to store this data locally. And what we're going to do is we are going to store it in this file up here. So with open file as a plus, because if it weren't, let's go ahead and just delete it actually. We're going to delete it. That way it can actually create the file, and we're going to open it up as f colon, so it's going to indent for us. We want to f dot write, and we want to write data. And this is all you have to do to create a text file, and, gotta store it as a string, forgot about that. This is all you have to do to actually store it in a text file. And if you look, this is still quite messy, quite horrible. What we're going to do in the next video is actually take this data and render it much more nicely, much more neatly in Python using the module Beautiful Soup. And what that's going to allow us to do is not only look at the data, the HTML code in a more it's called a prettify manner. That's the Pythonic way of saying it. In a prettier manner, it's also going to let us to perform targeted extractions based on those tags that we saw in the HTML code in the last video. So for right now, just practice with requests. Spend a little bit of time getting used to the get function and the encode function, and then join me in the next video, and we're going to actually start doing more targeted extractions from this website, from this data. So thanks for listening.